We're in project procurement management, and in this video clip, we're going to talk about the process Conduct Procurements. In other words, we're actually in the execution of the project, and we're actually doing the purchasing. Well, we could develop a short list of potential sellers by using a request for information. In other words, if we choose to use a request for information, we send the RFI out to the marketplace and we tell the marketplace what is the purchasing that we plan to do, what is the item that we're going to be sending a request for proposal for. And we ask the marketplace, if you're interested, if you as a company are interested, give us this pre-qualifying information. And then we use selection criteria to evaluate those responses and develop a short list of potential sellers. Maybe we get 40 responses from the marketplace, RFI, and we narrow that down to just 4 sellers that we think are quite competent to give us a proposal or quotation. Then we issue our procurement documents. In other words, our request for quotation and our request for proposal. Here, we're telling them the information they need to know about what it is that we actually want from them, and they respond with their quotation or their proposal. Now, before they respond with their quotation or proposal, we might choose to hold a bidder conference, or some people might call it a pre-bid meeting. Now, we're calling it pre-bid meeting or a bidder conference, even if it's not literally a construction bid, even if it's a proposal for something else. This would be the common phrase. Now, why might we hold a bidders conference prior to them finalizing their quotation or their proposal? Well, it's a chance for the potential sellers or bidders to ask questions. I find when I'm conducting bidders conferences on behalf of the customer, I find they don't usually ask too many questions. They don't want to reveal to their competition what they're thinking or how they're thinking. But we still like to have an opportunity for them to ask questions. We like to describe what we're looking for orally in the meeting. We want to make sure there's a common understanding and a clear understanding of what it is that we're looking for. If there's any ambiguities in the documents, maybe it'll become clear in the bidder conference. And we ask them to come to a meeting for this because then we're providing them all with the same obligation, with the same information rather. It's an obligation of ours to do so, as we'll see on our next slide. If there is some sort of physical installation or construction involved, maybe we require them to come to the bidders conference so that they can physically see the site in which they'd be working. Now, a bidder conference could be, attendance at the bidder conference could be required for reasons such as I just described, or you might decide to make it optional. In either case, when questions are asked and we're providing clarifying answers, we would almost always want to document those questions and answers and distribute them to all of the bidders to make sure they're getting all the same information. So then they do submit their quotations and proposals. Now we're evaluating the quotations and the proposals. We'd already evaluated the companies. Now we're evaluating their bids or proposals. And we're awarding a contract or we're further negotiating. Now when I say further negotiating, be cautious about this. You can only further negotiate if that was clearly articulated as part of your procurement process. Now, relevant to all of this, and we're just going to touch on it, is the law of competitive tendering in Canada and other countries. And in Canada in particular, it's well established. It's known as the concept of Contract A. Not only in construction where it's well known, but in any area in which you're getting competitive tendering or competitive proposals or quotations. If we're the customer, when we're soliciting the competitive responses, we, the customer, have an obligation for fairness to the prospective sellers. We have an obligation to provide all of them with the same information, to follow whatever process that we specified in our procurement documents. we're obligated to discard bids or proposals that are not compliant with what we asked for. And we're obligated to make an award of contract based on the best price or some objectively calculated best value to us, the buyer. So let's look at some examples. Can I invite 3 competing bids and then ignore 2 of them and award it to my brother-in-law just because he's my brother-in-law? No. I could only award it to him if his bid actually does offer the best price or the best value to me, and we did not provide him unfairly with special information we did not make available to the competitors. Say I invite 3 competing bids. I receive 2 bids that are compliant with what I asked for, and 1 which is quite different than what I asked for. But I like the non-compliant bid. Can I award it? No. I should cancel the whole procurement and then rewrite my request for quotation or request for quotation, go back to the marketplace with a fresh RFQ, RFP to allow fair competition among those prospective sellers. Now, after I receive several bids, can I then call in 1 bidder and negotiate further, adjusting the scope, adjusting the price, and then award it? No, I really ought to give my bidders all the same chance to respond to adjustments in the scope. Unless I specified in my procurement documents that the next stage was going to be negotiation. I caution you to consult with your procurement staff or your corporate lawyer on these kinds of issues. And as I was saying, this is just a superficial treatment of this topic. So, in evaluating the proposals. Now, if we're receiving quotations or bids or tenders, those words usually imply that we're making our award based mainly on price, low price, and usually satisfactory delivery time. But proposals are a little different because in proposals, each prospective seller has a different approach, maybe offering a different product, offering a different solution. It applies to consulting services, design services, where they're going to have a different, they may have a different design approach. They certainly have a different team of people to use on our project. So we're going to use the evaluation criteria that we had developed in the process plan procurement management. We're not going to talk about those criteria anymore, except to say that some of the criteria can be mandatory requirements. So they must satisfy, the bidder must satisfy the mandatory requirements. For example, your company wants to hire a training company to provide project management training within your company. The mandatory requirements could be that the vendor would be a provider registered with a professional association for project management. Maybe you have as a mandatory requirement that the vendor must have more than 1 qualified trainer. Maybe you specify that the trainers must hold a professional designation in project management. And if a vendor does not meet the mandatory requirements, then it's non-compliant and you reject that proposal. Of course, one way to do it is to award the contract to the lowest cost bidder who meets all the mandatory requirements. I'm assuming on this slide, though, that we're going to also have rated requirements. These are requirements that each vendor may score differently on. For example, maybe one rated requirement is number of clients in the last 5 years, up to, say, a maximum of 10 clients in the last 5 years. A vendor that's only had 3 clients might get 3 points. A vendor that's had 10 clients might get 10 points. And you'd have other rated requirements so that you can do some arithmetic and find out who is the most whose proposal is the most technically qualified. Now, you're going to find a way to build in the cost of each proposal as well. There are arithmetical methods such that you can objectively build the cost comparison into the rated requirements and help you objectively come up with a number for each bidder that would help you make that evaluation and award. All of this makes the evaluation more objective. In the public sector in particular, they're very likely to publish the evaluation criteria in their procurement documents. Now, on the one hand, that clearly tells the marketplace what are the criteria you are looking for, so vendors can tailor their proposal to meet your needs. In the private sector, they're less likely to publish the requirements to allow them a bit more latitude at adjusting the requirements during the evaluation process. Now, indeed, why might you get an independent estimate while you're preparing your procurement documents? Because you might say, well, we already know in the budget, which was prepared 9 months ago, that this contract should cost this much money. And you might say to yourself, and in 2 weeks we're going to go out to the marketplace with our request for proposal, and maybe 3 weeks after that you're going to get the prices back from the marketplace. So then you'll know exactly what it's going to cost. So why bother getting an estimate now done? Well, there's a few reasons for it, I suggest. One is for cost control. If this is going to go way over budget, you're going to find out about it right away. You don't have to wait those 4 or 5 weeks for the marketplace to speak. You're going to know about it now. If it's too expensive, maybe you're going to cancel it or adjust the scope before going to the marketplace. Another way is to help you evaluate the responses. If you already know what you think the price should be from your prospective sellers, and if you ask them all to break down their price into certain categories, that can help you evaluate their proposals and help you realize where they may have misunderstood the scope, or where where some vendors may have better approaches to get some of the work done than others. So it helps you in your evaluation. Another reason is that it can reveal collusion. Collusion is where the vendors have got together, the potential sellers have got together and communicated in advance, and they've decided that for this contract, Hamid is going to have the best price and he's going to be awarded the contract, and the rest of us are going to come in with even higher prices. And then for the next procurement, it might go to John as being the successful vendor. Of course, it's all illegal. In Canada, a number of years ago, all the major Canadian producers of industrial and medical gases were found guilty of collusion on prices to their industrial and hospital customers. Now, after we receive the proposals or quotations, we may have bid review meeting with the highest rated potential seller, or maybe with 2 or 3 of the best ones, in order to discuss and really make sure there is a clear understanding between ourselves and our vendor as to the scope. This is optional, though. Now, we might choose to use the 2 envelope system in our procurement methods. In the 2 envelope system, I'm the customer, you're the supplier. I ask you to submit your proposal in 2 envelopes. The first envelope is the technical proposal, or some people might call it the technical and management proposal. It describes what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And myself and my people on the buyer's side, we open all of the first envelopes and we evaluate them. Then there is the second envelope. The second envelope is the commercial proposal, or in other words, the price. Now, let me give you an example. There was a student in the first time that we ran this, this course working at a refinery in the Toronto area. They used the 2 envelope system when hiring a consultant, a design consultant, engineering consultant, for a major assignment. They used the first envelope to narrow the list of bidders down to 4. They selected the 4 best proposals. Then they opened the second envelope just for those 4 sellers, and compared the price. Kevin, the student, felt that the method worked very well. It forced the company, the customer company, to concentrate on the qualifications first, then on price. They were very interested in getting quality services, not the cheapest of those services. The exact details as to how to handle the two-envelope system may vary a bit from company to company. Now, just to show that the processes of the Project Management Institute make sense, of course, every process has inputs, tools and techniques. We've talked about some of those tools and techniques. And outputs. What do you think the outputs are from Conduct Procurement? I'll let you think about this just for a moment. Well, think about it. You are out doing your purchasing function. The output from Conduct Procurements is going to be the selected sellers and the contract or contracts. And this is Conduct Procurements.